Welcome to the final episode of the BP series. I'm going to show you the chase here at BP 12. There's a break of 4 up the road and we only have 2 laps to catch them. But before we wrap up the series, I'm going to have a discussion on the C word, crashes. So we're actually going to go to footage of Armed Forces real quick. The commentary is from New Type Cycling, and this was only my 6th race. There I am, riding my bike.
I believe I can fly.
Oh my God.
How did this happen? Let's find out.
So check this guy up here on the left. He tries to get a little too cocky and just eats barrier. Jesus, take the wheel. Oh my God. How did you navigate that, Bryce? We'll hit slow-mo for you.
Oh, man, I have no idea, actually.
Did you close your eyes?
Yeah, so what ended up happening was the guy in the blue comes over and he like jumps in front of me. So I thought I was safe until this point.
You bunny hopped his calf.
And then I think I did run him over. Sorry if that was you, but honestly, I couldn't think, so.
I think a better bike handler makes it out of that, but I was new to racing as a Cat 4. I just won my first race, Greenbelt C race. I signed up for Armed Forces with no idea what I was getting into. And there was 6 crashes just in that guy's video alone. Probably 20% of the field crashed out that day. I mean, the guy in the video, Bryce, eventually crashed out as well.
Yeah, just can't do anything about that, guys.
Yeah, touch his shoulders and we'll replay that back.
This is absurd, unbelievably stupid, and irresponsible. And the organizers don't run Crystal City for lower categories anymore, but it still illustrates my point. And the point is that these premier crits like Tulsa Tough, Armed Forces, or even Intelligentsia are incredibly dangerous for a lot of reasons. Right? The course is usually not great with manhole covers, off-camber turns, barriers everywhere. The field is too big with 120 starters crammed onto the start line, and I would describe the racing as disrespectful. People are taking risky lines everywhere, and there's no consideration of anyone else but themselves. If they can squeeze by someone, they do it, even if it means pushing someone else off their line. Putting in a big effort here at BP to try and bring this break back. But, I mean, what are we doing with these premier crits? How is this the best, most prestigious racing that we can aspire to? You know, it's time for roadies to wake up. We're losing market share every day to gravel racing. Everybody wants to race gravel. They sell out instantly. Type in gravel racing on YouTube and see how many views are on those videos. I mean, the demand for gravel is unreal. Why? Well, I think the crashing has a lot to do with it. The typical racer demographic, I think, is someone in their 30s with a family. They're more risk averse. They don't want to show up to a crit and have 3 crashes in the first 5 laps like what just happened at Wellington Grand Prix this year. I think a lot of elite crit racers in the US struggle to get any notoriety or make any money doing this. I mean, look at the NCL, it just folded. It's hard to get support for elite level crit racing. But I think the way to grow the sport is you have to grow it from the bottom up. You have to get more people into road or crit racing. The more crit racers you have, the more support and sponsorship the elite crit racers are going to get. But people aren't going to sign up for crit racing for long if you have multiple people carted away in ambulances over the course of the day. You're likely to have second thoughts about doing it, or you certainly would be more hesitant to let your kids race them. And you know, Bill Evans, who I've mentioned here on the channel, has a series called Bikes and Brew in Fredericksburg. It's kind of like an unofficial practice race. It's a bunch of people getting together to compete on an open course, and you should see the turnout he's getting at these rides. Sometimes it's 50 riders. You know, I think there's a deep desire for strong group riders to get into racing in a safe way. And that's exactly what Bikes and Brew is, and that's exactly how I got into racing. Bill used to call it Dirty 30s back then, but I did a few of those friendly race rides, and I was hooked. I signed up for my first race not long after. And I speak to a lot of people who are in this race curious category all the time. They might be triathletes, or they might do gravel races, but they would never sign up for a crit because they think it's too dangerous. And I empathize with them. I was very close to walking away from racing and getting into running instead. But it doesn't have to be like this. There is a better way. And so I'm going to compare the risks of crashing at BP compared to one of these premier crits. And so at BP at the A race, we had 3 incidents that I know of, and I'm going to show you them all right now. BP 1, somebody washed out through the downhill corner. He was the only one to go down. I'm not sure entirely what happened, but my guess would be a pedal strike, and not a big deal. He walked away from it. BP 8, Noel had a problem with his bike that caused him to lose control. He was the only one to go down. It looks bad, but he was okay after this. He raced the next BP as well. And the last one is BP 14.
hell, Ethan?
There was an overlapping of wheels ahead of me, and 3 of us went down. But none of us were seriously hurt, even though it may look that way. We all did pop right back up. So 5 people went down in the A race this year, and only 2 of us could really say that we went down because of someone else. That's Adrian and I from the crash you just saw. So as we go into the final lap of BP 12, I'm going to do some math. Let's say there's an average of 40 riders per BP. We get a little more at the beginning and a little less in the middle, but I think that's about right. And there's 15 BPs, 40 riders per race, equals 600 racers per year in a race. 5 ended up going down, none serious, and so your chances of crashing at any BP was 0.83%. And your chances of crashing due to no fault of your own is 2 out of 600, or 0.33%. 0 critical injuries in the A race this year, no ambulances called for us. Compare that to the Armed Forces or Tulsa Tough, where the chances of crashing legitimately might be 20%. It's a small miracle if nobody gets taken away in an ambulance during one of those races. And so you might ask, why is BP so much safer? Well, I think number 1, the course, the pavement is perfect. There's no barriers, it's swept by volunteers. I've even gone off course and I'm able to safely come back on. If there was riders immediately behind me, I would have stayed off course and gotten back on once they all passed. But in this example, I was able to come back on really easily. Reason number 2, well, the elite team protects it. I showed you this during BP6. John Krugler sacrifices his own race to lead out Chris and I to keep the race fast and safe at the end. And this was after a bit of controversy, but that's a class act. Do you know how few people are willing to do this? Cutaway also frequently controls the last 3 to 5 laps of a race. That's really hard to do. I implore any of you teams out there to try that. My team, I Ride for David, has tried that before, and we failed miserably. It's a great community we have here, and I'm not infallible. I got a talking to for dive bombing a corner on the last lap, so judge it for yourself. Here we go. After the race, Paul came up to me and had a chat with me. So here's part of that conversation.
Because your bars are not in front. So if he takes that and you crash, that's your fault. So you're putting him in a position where he's going to crash. It's a gray area, so you might be totally in the right.
Yeah.
Is all.
I just don't know what to do when I have speed on the inside. And there's people on the right like pulling off, slowing down.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I understand with yours.
Yeah.
Because I said it to you too. You took the inside line and I braked.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe
I
just try to let the person know I'm on the right of you.
Yeah.
And like if you're gonna keep going slow, I'm going by.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know what the right answer is here. You know, I could have totally been in the wrong, I could have totally been in the right, or it could be completely arbitrary. But the key point is that we have people that step in and have these uncomfortable conversations when riders are taking too much risk. You know, I should dial it back. It's a bit too much. And so we're coming into the finish of BP 12 here. The Miller School rider and Pink and myself were not able to catch the breakaway despite putting in a lot of effort. So this is the field sprint for 5th place, and I was tired. Noel claims the final spot in the points on the right, and Paul Davis ended up winning BP 12 from the break. So let's go to the ending of BP 13, and I'd just like to say at the end of the day, we shouldn't take ourselves too seriously. You know, none of us over the age of 20 are ever going to be professionals. The number one priority should be that we all keep it upright and go home to our families. Accidents are going to happen. It's bike racing. But BP is about as safe as it gets. And I wouldn't call it a culture of safety. I would call it a culture of respect. Respect to the other riders. And when you do that, you stay out of a lot of bad situations. That starts with Cutaway and trickles down to the rest of the peloton. So at the finish here, John Krugler is off the front and Johnny is beating us all in the sprint trying to catch him. Taylor and Noel are really close to winning this one, but John Krugler survives, technically wins from the break, and John and Johnny from Cutaway go 1-2.
You did? I think so.
What happened?
Guy in front of me went down. Am I good on my shoulder? My back?
Yeah, you just got a little scrape.
Are they gonna neutralize or?
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm alright.
So that brings us to the ending of BP 15 and the final reason why BP is so much safer. The organizers incentivize us to keep it safe. After the crash at BP14, they didn't restart the race. They said, "You're done, go home." If there's a crash, they might take away the preems. They only score 7 deep, and so sprinting for anything past 7th place is completely pointless. They pull lapped riders. They don't allow unnecessarily large fields. They had to cut back riders during the COVID cycling boom. They do everything in their power to promote that safety is their #1 priority. And so when you have the perfect course, the riders following the example set by the elite team, and the race organizers all incentivizing safe racing, that's why BP has so few crashes compared to these premier crits. And what I hope to demonstrate with this series is that despite it being safe, we still compete hard. The guys that win BPs are the same guys at the top of the regional races. You can have a safe race that is also a dynamic race with a high level of fitness. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And so I wake up every Tuesday psyched, right? Excited to get after it at BP that night. Richmond does it right, and I see so much potential in this sport. It's one of the few sports that balances endurance and sprint explosiveness, and I wish other people could have this experience. I've done several other practice races in the country like Greenbelt in DC, Woodlands in Tampa, and they're both good races. They do the best they can, but nobody does it quite like BP. I can't think of a single improvement other than I wish the race was longer. And so I just want to thank the volunteers, organizers, riders, Cutaway, Wendy, and all the other effort that goes on behind the scenes to make this race happen and make it a fun and safe experience. And so with that said, ran over. Let's finish this series with the last bit of controversy as Brooke and I bumped elbows on the last lap of the last BP.
Come on, man. Don't break those fucking elbows.
This one is milder in my opinion. I infiltrated the Cutaway lead out and I think I had the wheel and Brooke tried to take it off me. We made contact with our elbows and I did yield to the right a bit, but I felt like it was my wheel. And I certainly didn't push left, which would have been a dirty move. But these are borderline situations in cycling, and especially as a sprinter, sometimes you need to hold your ground. You can't let people push you around. So I'm getting dropped off second wheel through the corner here. This is my best chance of winning I've had all year. And I try and stay in Paul's draft a bit too long here. He opens up the sprint, and I'm about to go, and Ethan pops me on the right. I open the sprint up, and I am making up some ground here. Taylor's there too. But Ethan takes the win, and he is 15 years old. 15. So congrats, Ethan. The sky's the limit for you if you keep working hard. I look forward to watching you win a stage in the Tour de France one day. Congrats to Johnny Fan for winning the series. Here's the podium. Taylor was the only non-Cutaway to make that podium, and Cutaway won every race this year except for BP number 3. Thanks for watching. Come on out to BP. It's spectator friendly. It's racer friendly. There's a kids race. It's the best race I've ever done. Come say hi, and I hope to see you there. And I'll leave you with the heartbreak that is cycling. It's a sport filled with a lot of losing, but it only makes the wins that much more special. Peace out.
Bro, I get 2 shots at that a year. You understand? Like, I don't have a lead out training. Dude, it's going to eat me up.
It's all right, man.
All year.
Second, we'll be good. Look, man, remember what we talked about before we got here?
Dude, I know, but...
We're building, bro.
Dude, I don't get run-ins like that. Like, it just doesn't happen for me.
Yeah.
I was second wheel through the corner. I was 5th. I did everything I wanted, positionally. And I just didn't open up my sprint in time.
Yeah.
It's just... Damn, man.
That was a good race, man. We raced hard.